Hello, everyone. My name is Unbridled Ambition. I am an author of a couple of comics, manga. I've made a game myself. I've been on the news for my art before. I've sold at multiple conventions, keeping the introduction a little briefer this time. And I'm here to help you guys learn how to draw the face. I was asked this question by Silent Knight 6810. I see you on Twitter quite a lot. I appreciate it. How do I get the head and face to look good, especially the eyes and the mouth? We're going to go over a couple different things in details, proportions up here in the top. We're going to talk about the skull a little bit. We're going to talk about the paper mirror effect. This is somebody else's technique. I can't remember who's on the top of my head, but you can look this up as well. Faces that change in like age or chibis. A little bit of the perspective, but only some talks about it, and then the male versus female face, and just kind of the general shape, because you did ask me that question specifically. It's that kind of shape feeling. And then lastly, we're going to draw a portrait of one of my characters from Chaos X Space and take this really hideous looking portrait and try to make it a little better towards the end. So first, let's go over this. So we have our perspective for the face. Yeah, and I tried giving you guys multiple versions or different angles of the face that would be helpful as well. So when we're looking at the face, and I'll go over this again once I draw the face, but just take a second, put your pencil down, just look. Okay, the face itself is divided in between or into a couple of different lengths. Let's maybe go with that, yes, or divisions, yes. The first one that we normally start with is the shape of the head. So you would typically end up drawing a ball here for the shape of your head, right? Some forms, like the Andrew Loomis method, that's a good one to look up. Or I think I don't think Andrew Loomis was the thirds, but there are different methods to draw in the head. They can give you kind of the flow of it, but if we're just going very simple, draw a circle. You might split it in half down here. That's what I tend to do. And then I add where the chin would be. Go here. Then I turn to where the jaw's at. You basically have the shape of the head. Yeah. What you could do in order to construct it is you can make a square first. And the reason, or I guess a rectangle. We make a rectangle first. The reason why we do that is because it makes it easier to break it in half. So if I put the circle in here now, I know where the halfway point's at for where I put my eyes. I will say that if you find tutorials that give you information that might be different than mine, or they tell you use different proportions and lengths, it's whatever gets you the results that you want. Okay. There are very standardized versions of how to draw it correctly and how to get this right. But for me, especially as an artist, is what gives you the results you want. Because it's not about how to draw like Picasso. It's how to draw the way that you want to draw, right? So we go here. I put this down the middle. And then since I have this here, I can use this for the eyes. Typically, when you find for most forms of proportion, I believe, is you'll either get this line to be the eyebrow line or you get it to be the eye line. I like using it as the eye line. So we're also going to do another thing here. So we have our half. We drew our circle. We drew the little pentagon down in there. I don't think this is too small. You guys can still see. And as you can see here, I have this numbered off. Yes? So the face from up front is divided proportionally by 5 eye lengths. Now these aren't completely, even, but 5 eye lengths. So here in the face we have, let me change the color. We've got 1 division. We've got 2 divisions. That's 2. We've got 3. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you feel like your eyes, a lot of new artists, what tends to happen is they draw really long eyes. So the eyes will almost jump over to the side of the head here. I've seen that a lot. People don't tend to draw them too small, especially with our like anime and manga style, since they're usually larger, but you could end up drawing them too small or maybe too close, right? You draw it right here and you draw the other eye right here and it feels like they're almost touching. I've seen that quite a bit. And the reason why is because a lot of people aren't thinking about the proportions of the eye. So if I were to take what I just showed you and put it to the new face, what I like to do is I like to divide in the middle here. I take a little bit off on this side, and what this does is it makes it a lot easier to divide into fifths. I'll go here. I made the face a little smaller than the box, so just work with me here. And it's going to be fine. I'll go here, and then I have the breakup, and I can just draw the eyes. I'll zoom in a bit. I can just draw the eyes here. I don't have to think about it much because I have it almost like mathematically like made in my mind about how I need to do this. So here we have our half of the box, half of the box. And then here we have our fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you were to draw this, since we're using a lot of manga stuff, right, and a lot of anime stuff, to get a more realistic face, you need to make sure it is fists. This is closer to anime, technically, since, again, I didn't touch the side of the boxes here, which is fine, because it's the same lesson still. What this starts to become, or for anime faces specifically, realistic faces have 5 breaks here, or 5 evenly broken up spaces, where anime is about 3.5. So the sides here get a little smaller for anime. So anime will always be 1/2, and then you can do like 1, 2, 3, and then another half. So it's basically like 4 lengths, but you're splitting one down the middle. Why'd I put a fourth? I put a fourth. Now, side profile does change, and I do feel there are lengths for the side profile, but I feel like in a lot of different styles, it kind of changes a bit. We won't touch that yet. I'll leave this one alone because this one can get a little bit more complicated. So, we have our eye placement, which is at the halfway point. The nice part about the face is it breaks down into more halves. So, if this is 1/2 in red, right, and then this is 1/2 in red, to find the base or around the bulb of the nose, we just split this in half again. So we split our half in half, and we're right about lined up to the bottom of the nose. So you go from a half to a fourth, and then now this one can change, I guess, depending on some people's styles. And some people, when they draw the ball, they make the ball large enough that it's where the mouth is, so you have an easier time finding and stuff. But that doesn't matter. Again, these are all just methods to make it easier for you to have your own shorthands to draw, right? Where we find the bottom of the mouth is another halfway point. Again, forgive me for not having this exact, but that tells you, again, we don't have to be as pressured about getting everything perfect. Perfection is the enemy of creation. I keep having to tell myself this, and I have to remind myself. So we have that. We have about a half here. And then we have our half to the chin. So all you have to do to get your face right is keep in mind the shorthands and the tools that I've basically given you right now to keep your perspective going, right? If you already draw a face and you feel like it's off, compare the face to see whether or not the eyes are 1 to 5, or they're 3.5, like I've told you beforehand, or 5 equal lengths. Check if the nose is about, a half of where the eyes to the chin is. Check if the lip is above or below where that is. Some styles, I'm really fond of like ReZero. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that anime. I'm currently rewatching it. But that artist has his mouse like all the way down here. Even me drawing it like this almost looks like the character. It's kind of funny. Hold on. They put his mouse lower. Now, is it a good thing in practice if you don't know that they're doing that? No. But if you just decide that that's just the way you like things to feel, that's just how it is. So, I'm going to teach you the way to get this correct, or as correct as I can get it. And you are free to experiment and do what you like afterwards. But it's just important to know, you need to know what it is before you break it. That's like a big thing with a lot of beginning artists is they don't know what they're doing. They just assume this is their style, and they don't understand how they're breaking things. Once you know how you're breaking things, you can do whatever you want. So that's always good. Another nice shorthand. Sometimes people draw lips a little too wide, or the mouth a little too wide. With anime, though, when you're doing expressions, this can cross. Like if you're doing like a very sadistic smile from a person, it might get a little wider. Or if you want them to be a little more creepy or yada yada, or just more expressive, that's fine. But a good shorthand is that the edges of the mouth should never pass, if to me, the pupil of the face. Sometimes I see it even to like right here to the corners of the eye. But it should not enter this zone unless you're using it for the sake of expression. If you're using it to make an expression or a wide grin or an angry face, yada yada, sure. But otherwise, keep it within. That tends to work better for me in that regard. I'll put that in purple. I'll put it on a different layer in purple. So I have this here. Also, let me know in the comments if you would like to see this as a downloadable image, because I can put that up if you'd like. So I'm going to have my like no-fly zone. This is a no-fly zone. That makes it easier to keep things a little bit more uniformed. As well, another nice shorthand for your ears. If you feel like your ears are a little weird, sometimes people will draw them really long or really further down, is your ears from straight forward, so like looking straight at the viewer. If the camera's right here, the camera's like looking at us, straight forward. The ears are equal to the length of the eye to the nose. Top of the eye to the nose, and you'll be fine. That tends to work out pretty all right. So when you're doing or looking for your hairline as well, that's about like a third into the giant box itself. Be a little rough of a third, but about a third in. So from this giant square, 1/3 will give you where your hairline's supposed to be. And you'll bend it over the length of the face. It should bend since this is not a flat shape, which the one thing I'm a little mad about that last tutorial is I have to make sure I'm using the right terminology for at least the shapes. This is not a circle. This is a sphere. Sphere. Sometimes it's a sphere with its sides cut off. And it is still a sphere, so there is a bend to it depending on where the perspective line is. Which is the reason why we're going to talk about perspective a little bit here. If you would like to go further in perspective, again, let me know. So there's a lot of shorthand for you in the face. Even with just this, you will draw a much simpler, or you'll draw a much better face. I struggled with this for a long time, and I've done a lot of notes and other stuff, and those notes aren't as pretty. I could show those up at some point if you guys are curious, or like, can I see some of your notes? But they're there, you know. Now, the profile is one that I tend to struggle with a bit, and I don't have as many shorthands off the top of my head, but I can say that, one, it is wider than the front of the head, or at least from a lot of the studies I used to do, is wider than the front of the head, typically. And you have this slant-like shape going through the face. Now, it depends on the style. Some styles I've seen, the face almost goes straight down. And sometimes the character or their gender might change how you draw this half of the face. Because this isn't incorrect. Yeah, this isn't incorrect. And this isn't incorrect either. Maybe I want to go like a little balance. I might have a little too in. I'll take it back. I might say it's a little incorrect. But there. The eye is further back. The brow and the nose and the lips. Ooh. And we have the corner. We're still doing it. I did it subconsciously. The corner of the mouth here is still hitting the eye. That's funny. I didn't realize I did that. So that's still there. And then the lengths that we applied still apply here. So we still have the half, right? We still have the fourth. We still have the eighth. And this is still built off the same building block. So I'll draw like a smaller one here. We'll go like an oval on its side. So it's a little longer. And then I'll grab off this oval. Actually, let's do the square first, like I told you guys. So you guys have the example of me using it correctly. Go half, half, half. I'll split this in half here. This is basically our skull shape. We'll go down here. I'll break out here. Here. Oh, wait, let's do a half again. Make sure I'm doing it in full. Go another half here. And then I can have another half here. The bottom lip. Round that the right way. Here, down the middle. Sometimes people will put the ears maybe a little bit off of it or right in like on the edge. Sometimes I like to put it right here. The middle of this rectangle. Here. I'll put the eyes. Now, one cool trick I learned for the eyes recently, at least for manga style eyes, is what some people will do is they'll take the eyeball they already have. So let's say I drew a very sharp eyeball like that, like very sharp looking, sharp, maybe almost a little evil or clever or whatever, and they'll just chop it in half. And then with that, I have the side version of the same eye. So, yeah. For this, I guess we should actually go into more detail about this. Let me go here for this. Your eye here, your eye is a ball. I guess we'll go a little bit down to the skulls. Your eye sits in this ball-like pocket in your skull, yeah? And what that means, specifically for the profile, because you can see it a little bit more, but sometimes people won't draw it as, like, in your face, but the eye kind of bends a bit here, right? Your eye is sitting in here, there. So if I was to draw, like, the eyelash part here, the front of the eye, it's still going to bend a little bit. So you can draw, like, a little bit of a curve. Blue's, like, the worst color to be able to focus on. Draw a little bit of a curve here, if you would like. You could also still draw it straight, but I feel like the curve is a little better. It makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional. You'll get away with it if you do the line. I'm not here to criticize you in full if you're using little shortcuts, as long as you know you're using a shortcut. If you don't know you're using a shortcut, there's a problem. But if you do, it's okay. So we have that there. I didn't talk about different types of eyes. I guess I could go into that in a sec too. But so we have our side, we have the eye, we have that it's still lining up. So one other check you still have is making sure that this still lines up. I don't tend to like the nose to go too far, but that varies on character. If you draw a character with like a longer nose, the nose might come out more. If you have characters with larger lips, the lip might come up a little bit more, be a little bit more plump here. Chin, same thing as you saw earlier. You can put the chin further out if you'd like. You just want to try to keep like the brow, I want to say, ahead of the lips and the chin. But yeah, I don't think let me know if I'm being a little too complex in this. That would be very helpful, since this is like my first time trying to teach with this sort of stuff. So just let me know. If it's too much, go LE, or I said LE, I guess UA on this channel. UA, slow the freak down. All right. So when we get to 3/4, it is just a mixture of the two. And as you turn the head, you're just making it a series of like either the front side, so make a red for the front. Either the front is getting larger or the side is getting longer. If the face is mostly turned in profile or to the side, then you might only have like this much red. And then you might only have like this much purple, or you might have like way more purple. Or it could be the opposite, where like the face is kind of facing more towards us, but you're seeing a like corner of the face. And you're seeing a little bit of the perspective. But as you can see here, even with just putting it in 3/4, this is the most three-dimensional face that we have here, right? I think the only thing I would change, looking at this example that I made for you guys to teach with, is maybe the nose to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional, but that is still also the style itself. We're going to have a conversation about the nose, since I did kind of draw it in this shape here. But I think it's easier to illustrate on the 3/4. So everything that we said still applies. So we still have our half. So our 1/2 right here, right, half of the face, 1/2. We still have our other half here. I don't know why I drew the line a little higher, but right here. So we're at 1/4. And then again, this one, I think I could raise this lip a little bit, but either way, it still applies. So 1/8. Yeah. The lips still aren't going past the eyes much. This goes here. The only thing that starts to change is because we're in perspective, the equal lengths we have for 1 through 5, they start to shrink on the end that is turning away from us. Because in perspective, things like, let's say we had a ruler here, right? We have a ruler. We'll go there. Artist can't draw a ruler, but it's trying to teach you how to draw faces. How ironic. 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to make these all even space. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just leave it 7. 7, sure, whatever. If I start to move this in perspective, so we have a vanishing point. We probably will have to talk about perspective. I have a vanishing point here. The ruler's following the vanishing point, so it's going out this way. It gets bigger here. And if I draw this, it's not going to get much bigger at the bottom. These points here are going to be closer than the points closer to us. Because that's just how perspective works. If something tilts away from you, it's going to get smaller. And if it tilts towards you, it's going to get larger. So here with our 1 through 5, the 1, or if the 1 here, I guess, if you turn the face the other side, then the 5, but the 1 is going to be smaller. So will the 2, then the 3, the 4, and the 5. Yes? That's why sometimes you'll grab a face or you'll grab the eye here, and it's still like a lot smaller than this eye, even though it doesn't really look like it should be. This eye is going to be smaller than this eye is. If I grab it right now, what layer is this on? What layer are you on? Okay, there we go. If I were to grab this face here, grab the eye and drag it, it's almost like it eclipses the other eye. Yeah, and that's because I'm drawing this eye in perspective, and that's important. So I know, and that my art comes out more accurately in perspective, and it makes it look more three-dimensional. So from that, the one thing I wanted to talk about here was the nose as well. Again, this is the same construction shape. I'll do that real quick too. Same construction shape. We'll get the cube again. Cube, but this time, or more like rectangular, 3D rectangle. Go here, here, and then I'll draw one here, here, here. I'll break it in half here, break it in half here. We'll go back to using our ball shape. And then we will dent in the head here, go back out that way, come here, come out. I can break this in half here, and then I'll add my little extra sides. Like I told you guys, I like to put 2 on the side there to make like my thirds almost. This one's a little wider, this one's a little smaller. I got 5 there. I can follow this down. I can follow this one down. I can follow this one down. Sorry about it not being the neatest right now. I'm just showing you guys how I would construct it, I guess. Down. And the other thing that you're going to see me do occasionally is sometimes you have to fix things, and sometimes, even when following the rules, you're not going to be the most happy about it, and you feel like you have to change it. I guess we'll talk about this while I'm doing this. So, the nose itself is an interesting shape. It has been a shape that has puzzled me for quite a while. It's like a trapezoid prism. I don't know what the term is for that anymore. I haven't taken geometry in, what is it, 12 years almost? I'm too old now. But here, so we have like this kind of shape, like a gold bar. Think of it like a gold bar, yeah? So we have this kind of shape coming off the face. And the reason why that's important is if you're looking at the nose straight on, you'll see the sides, but this bar here will be in the middle. So it's like a little like this. The top plane is a little larger than the planes below it or to the side of it. And then this bottom trapezoid part will kind of show depending on the angle of the nose, but this is here, right? So when you start to turn it, it lets us know what side we're looking at. Now with comic style art, it's a lot more important that you render it and show it and whatever else. With a lot of manga art, they tend to shorthand it to doing like a little line here, and then they'll add the nose here, and then they might add the bridge of the nose or of the skull. We'll go over the skull in a second. I'll go to the skull in a second. My terminology is not the greatest, but we'll go to the skull in a second. But that here, like, it gets simplified quite a bit. But even your favorite mangaka and your favorite anime artists, whatever else, they're still thinking this way. This is why your teachers will get at you guys for being like, oh, you only draw anime, where's your realism at? It's not that you can't draw anime and you have to draw realism. It's that in order to draw anime well, you need to understand what they're describing. A lot of anime and manga are shorthand, even with comics, because I've gone over a lot of comic art recently, and in my opinion, there's some comic art that's really good and some that's really bad, and you can tell which artist has their fundamentals down and which ones don't. Maybe at one point, if you guys are curious, I can go over a list of like some of my favorite comic book and my favorite manga artists. That might be a fun video. I haven't looked at my comic book artists in a minute, but so when I'm constructing the nose, I want to remember that I have that shape here. I have that gold bar shape, and the gold bar ends in between the eyes, comes down, and for this style that we're doing already, I'm just gonna get rid of it, but I had it here so I know where the face should be, and it also tells me where it should overlap on the eyes, because the gold bar would be in front of the eye in perspective, right? But we're gonna get rid of that. A lot of anime doesn't draw the nose bridge as much, so the length of the nose is often, some do, some don't. Here, go down, I'll draw the lip here. There, just like another half here, another half here. I'm gonna fix this side of the head. One thing I keep doing is I keep indenting maybe a little too much. Sides of my head. There. Oh, one shorthand that is important that we'll say, this goes for all the faces. Make sure this portion, or at least this is the thing that I do, make sure this portion, the point on the side of the face, this is your jaw. And your jaw should not be above your, like, where your teeth line is. It should stay down, or just slightly below where the lips are at. I tend to find that to look better. It took me a while before I realized I was doing that, and I was like, oh, that's why some stuff looks funky. Oh, the eye's a little close. That's what's bothering me, it looks like. But either way, it doesn't matter. This is just like a short demonstration of this. Here, there. As I said, it's okay to be messy. I would do multiple layers, but this is a demonstration. So I'm just showing you guys that it's okay to be a little messy. Okay, figure it out. You can also just turn this layer down and then draw over it again. Oh, we can put the ear here. So again, this line goes this way. I will say the halfway point of the box is going to tilt differently depending on where the perspective line is. So here in perspective, it's going to go this way. But since I don't have my second perspective line might go from here. We'll go over perspective. I think we have to go over perspective. I think it's very important. We probably have to go over perspective at some point. It's going to be way more in depth. I have to think a lot more about it and make sure that I'm providing as much as I can. Notice how, again, we had the ear past the halfway point. I'm once again going to put it at the halfway point here of this side of the box. And there we go. Yeah, we got a face. A pretty serviceable face. I guess the only thing I forgot to add for all these is the crease in between the eye and the eyebrow to show where your eyelid is at the top. But when you look at it, and when you have some of the stuff just kind of in your head, these are good. These are good checks. So sometimes there are two types of people. There are people like me when I first started, where I drew with a lot of framework first, and then I slowly got to the point where I could do more freehand stuff and not have to think about all this stuff and would only use it to check myself. And then there's other people where you start off in the opposite of me, where you're doing a bunch of random stuff and you just kind of draw however you do. But sometimes things look off and weird and you don't know why. And that's because you need to go back and give yourself a little bit more framework. Kind of works both ways. Another easy method, I don't know who made this method. This is on YouTube. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this is someone else's method, okay? I guess all of these are someone else's method, but I think this is a recent one, so I just want to put someone else's method. Okay, so if you have it up, or if you can remember, please put it below or comment it. I'm just putting that there, so I'm not saying I invented none of this stuff. But they had an easier time learning to draw the face by thinking about it as a piece of paper wrapped around a ball. So from here, you can cut the paper to give yourself a jaw or whatever. You can keep the eyes here, and you can better like understand the face in perspective because you have one eye on one half of the paper, like, or just go like one half of the paper and then another eye on the other half of the paper. And if you were to bend the paper around a ball, so we have the bend up here, you kind of have the eyes in perspective. They kind of turn a little bit towards each other, like turn a little bit up or whatever else. This method has worked for some people. It's not my method of it, but sometimes I'll throw this out here to go, whoa, where should my stuff be? Where's the halfway point of it? The more you can think in 3D, the better your art's going to get. That's a simple one. The more you can think in 3D, the better your art's going to get. Most times I can tell a novice artist based off how flat their art looks. That's it. It can be that quick. Now here, we're not going to go too much into detail about age for the faces, because that wasn't what this was about. The question was more about proportions and other things. But some things that can make your faces feel a little bit younger, wider cheeks. This is more like Chibi, but wider cheeks will do it. Wider. But the majority of it is your eye placement. Lower eyes. This is not a half. This is like a third. No, what's the right term for this? This is 60%. 60% versus 40%. The lower you lower the eyes, especially when they're big eyes, the younger the character's going to look. That's why some styles, like Lucky Star and, I have to go, maybe Nichijou. I'd have to go back and look at Nichijou. That's why their characters look a lot younger. Or they look a little bit more cartoony and silly and everything else is because they have big eyes, smaller, or big eyes compared to the space of their head. Yeah. Whereas a more mature style, your eyes get a lot smaller. Again, if you guys are interested in looking like age progression, we can go over that too. I like to go into more depth if we can with this, so I'd rather not inflate it too much. But that's there just in case you're wondering, like, why do my characters look smaller? Or why do my characters look younger? Or whatever else like that. Also, sometimes too, the height of the nose. If the nose is too high in comparison to where the eyes are at, it's like at here, and then the nose right here. This will make your character look younger. If the nose is a little bit lower, they'll look a little older. So that's also there. We have the skull here, not because we're gonna go over in detail about its parts, but I wanted to show you guys that even, let me get rid of a few of this extra work. Even okay, that's fine. Even with the faces that I drew here, even if it doesn't look like it, they were all drawn from inside the face. So I drew all these skulls from inside the heads that we have. Your face will show its cheekbone. This is a thing that protrudes. Both your pain in the butt. Okay, hold up. Both your brow, as you can see here, both your brow and your cheekbone will protrude depending on what angle you're at. These things already naturally protrude here. Your brow, again, will protrude. And then this time, the nose, or the bone of the nose, is protruding. Your nose actually goes further out. But you have nose cartilage up at the top, I think. Or you have a nose bone up at the top and then it's cartilage. That's here. Will still protrude. I like to add that little chin detail, but I'm not so sure if that does. But that's still here, and you still have the ball of your head for your eyeballs, so you know where it like sits. You know that this should be a sphere. It just doesn't change. Some styles of front-facing art, some manga won't illustrate it, but you'll see it a lot in comics. Comics love to kind of include the cheekbone from what I've seen. So that's still there. This is important. If you want to get better, practice your 3D shapes, practice drawing skulls. They'll do a lot for you. Keep your proportions in mind. Again, 1 through 5 or 3.5 on both ends. 3.5, 3.5. And then your, again, 1/2, half of a half, and 1/8. Right? Keep this stuff in practice. It's going to help you a lot. So those are there. We only added the perspective here, so you guys can recognize that when you have all these proportions and stuff in your head, you'll learn that your perspective changes based off your eye level. This is the perspective line. There is a term for this, and I don't know why it's not. That line, horizon line. There we go, horizon line. I don't know why my brain can think of that. And this is basically where your eye level is at. So if someone is above you, the square, or if something is above you, the square is going to look more like this. Well, this isn't in perspective. Hold up. Let me do this right if we're working on perspective line. Let me draw this correctly. If something is above you, you will see it this way, which means if I start constructing the face, where's the halfway point here? Right here. Right? Because they're looking above me. Or they are above me. I'm 5'11", they're 6 foot. This is the difference. So the construction starts differently automatically based off that alone. Versus if they were shorter than me, and like I was looking at like the top of their head, then that actually, let's change the color. That's a little clearer. At least blue for short, pink for tall. Shout out to you ladies, you're taller than all of us now. Move that average up here and here. So if I were to start drawing the face, again, that halfway point we used to start drawing would be below this line of my eye, which means the tilt is different. So where I have to start constructing from changes versus here. Wait, let me use a darker blue. Where I do construction from changes and is different than where it would be if it was up here. And what I would see would change. This is why it's important to understand what the shapes of the face are, because now I'm going to see the bottom of that gold bar more than I would here, where I wouldn't even see the bottom. I would just see that part of the nose. That makes sense. I'll draw the gold bar more seriously. There's no bottom here. The bottom is way more visible here. Again, because of the angle and the perspective that we're at. So perspective is huge. But since you guys are just trying to learn how to draw simple faces, this is where we're at here. This is more in depth, and I would need to take more time to give you guys some more clear illustrations of it. Very simple after note. We'll go with this one first. Silent asked me how to, like, what general shape for the face. In my head, I always think of it as a sphere and then a pentagon. So we'll do a sphere here. Oh, that's like really not bright. Okay. Sphere here. And then we will do a pentagon in blue. We'll do blue. If I'm looking at like flat, straight on, that's what it makes me think of. This isn't as helpful, but if you want like a general shape in your mind that it should get somewhere closer to, that tends to be it. So very small details here, especially with anime and manga. This kind of applies to comics, but I would say mostly with this one where it could go both. It could go both. Very simplistic things changed the gender of the character. This face was actually drawn from this face. I grabbed it and copied it and moved it over, and all I did, mind you, so I will go with this. I'll do it where it is. I made the eyebrows thinner. I made the eyes. I put lashes on here to accentuate the femininity of the eyes. I defined the lips. I like to define the lips on women. A lot of manga avoids that, except with older women, but I like to do that. And then I thinned out the jaw, so the jaw isn't as wide as it here, or the chin isn't as wide as it is here. So, and a little bit of thinner jaw. I thinned out the jaw. Now, this can change. Sometimes you get women who have thicker eyebrows. Satsuki from Kill la Kill has really thick eyebrows. Sometimes some like the muscle girls will get like the larger jaws and they still look effeminate. And it's because they still have the overall features, like the lashes that are still here, or maybe they'll tone down the eyebrows, or like you can still have certain features that usually will go with a what's the word I'm looking for? Not what you identify as, but your just biological gender and yada 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 yada. So people fluctuate. There are people with larger lips, myself, people with larger lips that are masculine. You still have this. You still have this on the guy, and it still be there. Sometimes the coloration changes, but that doesn't change the face, right? You can fluctuate with it, but if you want to lean towards like stereotypical, traditional, yada 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 yada, if you follow these, it'll make it a lot easier. Or sometimes these are just good bases, so you can start off with this base and then make your guy a little bit more effeminate, like a lot of pretty boys and shoujo manga and stuff like that. A lot of their stuff will get turned down. They're a lot less gruff, male, aggressive, Dragon Ball. I get my eyebrows drawn in and yada 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 yada. And then vice versa, where you'll have with a lot of female faces, you might make them a little bit more masculine and add features that would seem more masculine presenting and yada yada and etc. So that's basically the gist of this. So let me know if you have any more questions or if there's anything that I missed. We are going to redraw this horrific face and try to use the principles that I used here to make a better portrait. And that way also the thumbnail goes wild. So let's go do that real quick. Ooh. Free from Chaos X Space again. If you're not over 18, don't read it. But here we go. So this is my character here. She is a person from the planet Beria, and she is a Mifu who believes. Oh, one more quick note before I do this. The sides of these squares here on the 3/4 tend to follow the temple. Just like the temple of the head. So this bony part here, that is important. All right, now start. there are angles and stuff I would still change with this face, but we are from here. We're from nothing to here to here. So hopefully this is helpful. Again, my methodology is not foolproof, the best, whatever, yada yada. I do recommend still looking and seeing a bunch of different artists' perspective. That's how you grow your own style to begin with. That's how you improve. And there's going to be a lot of tips and tricks that I don't know that other people know, and there are going to be some stuff that I know that other people don't know. So subscribe, please. I'd very much appreciate that. And have this video in your playlist. If you got to rewatch it, come rewatch it, man. If there are any questions or if you have anything that you would like to learn from me, let me know. If you are already, please read my manga. It's free. If you're over 18, thank you. I appreciate that because it still isn't ecchi. So, but otherwise, I hope that you enjoy your day. I hope that this was useful or helpful to you. And even at bare minimum, like if there's only like 1 or 2 things that you learned, please comment it down below. I'd like to know what you think you've learned. And if there's anything else you would like to see or understand from me, also let me know. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy to ask. I'd very much appreciate it. All right. Have a good one, and goodbye.